Women's Match of the Year, another one of the more competitive polls this year. There was not a decisive favorite, let's put it that way. But the nominees included the Women's Royal Rumble match in January, obviously. Willow Nightingale and Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing for the AEW TBS Championship. Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 40 for the Women's World Championship. Toni Storm versus Mariah May at All In for the AEW Women's World Championship. Io Sky versus Bayley from WrestleMania 40 for the WWE Women's title. Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander in that Chicago street fight at All Out from AEW. Women's Money in the Bank ladder match in July. And Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander, which just happened in November at Full Gear for the AEW TBS Championship. So some really good nominees there, I think. Some great women's matches this year. What do you think won, Mr. Marceau? What did you vote for?
I probably voted for Becky and Rhea, if I'm taking an educated guess. I think there's a lot of good matches. I think that's what I voted for.
All right. Well, first place with 34% of the vote, Io Sky and Bayley from WrestleMania 40, which was the better match of the weekend for me. Rhea and Becky was great, but that actually did not come close. I think that was seventh here. That only got 3% of the vote.
Oof.
Yeah, tied with Willow and Mercedes Moné. So first place with 34 with Io and Bayley, as I mentioned. 21% was Toni Storm and Mariah May, which was, if not at least, just for the story alone, one of the best women's matches that company has done.
Maybe you did vote for Io and Bayley now that you're saying it. I don't have it written down there.
Yeah.
Obviously, big Io mark over here. Like I said, now that you're saying it, I do think that match was better overall. So, yeah, I'm just going to cheat and say I voted for that match and make me seem not dumb. But, yeah, I love that. Hey, love that match. Not surprised it won.
Yeah, no, that was a great match, too. But, yeah, Toni and Mariah were second. Third, actually, with 14% of the vote.
Oof.
The Women's Royal Rumble match, shockingly, was number 3. 4 was a tie with the Women's Money in the Bank, and then Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. And the rest of them were 6, 7, 8 with 3%, 3%, 6%. That includes Rhea versus Becky, shockingly. And that wasn't like the best match of the year, but it was a really good match, and I'm surprised that didn't get more votes. But yeah, Io and Bayley from WrestleMania 40. I didn't really feel like the WWE women's matches this year, there weren't a whole lot of bangers. I included 2 matches for Mania, and then 2 multi-women matches, because I kind of struggled to, in AEW, say what you will about Mercedes Moné, but she was having great matches this year. Willow Nightingale, too, Chris Statlander as well. In WWE, I feel like the Mania matches were great, but then after the Rumble and the Women's Money in the Bank, there's a big drop-off as far as quality women's matches that you would remember as being match of the year.
Yeah, not even completely agree. I really agree with you on that front. I love Liv Morgan, but she's not having, bangers out there.
Yeah.
And she's, the current women's champion. I like Liv a lot, but she's not kind of like that. I think with WWE, like you said, even Bayley and Io, was it a 5-star classic? No, but it also did have a great story around it. So it's the story can also prop up the match. I think going into 2025, we'll see what happens, especially if Becky and Charlotte come back. I think Tiffany's ready to break out, and they have some other women as well. So we'll see what happens, but I think the story for a lot of these matches outweighs the in-ring. Kind of can fluff up the in-ring stuff because the story's good enough that you don't need it to be a 5-star classic, I guess. Yeah,
no, I totally agree, especially with WWE. They've had some good stories. AEW as well had some good stories and just, better matches with the women in general this year. It's something that I would like to see more of. Again, I did not include NXT, but you could have included Roxanne Perez versus Jordynne Grace from NXT. I think it was Battleground in May or June. They had a really good match on that show. Really, any of Roxanne's matches. She's had some really, really good matches this year with Thea Hale, Jada Parker, Lola Vice, among other people. I know you were going to vote for Women's War Games. I forgot to include it. I apologize.
Oh, that actually was my vote. Shit. Hands down, one of the worst women's matches. Honestly, might not even be a stretch of all time. It was terrible. Wow.
It was a mess. I'll put it that way. It was definitely a mess. And I think you were also right in that. We'll talk about the Women's Star of the Year momentarily, but Liv and Rhea, Rhea too, but Liv and Nia had great years. The best years of their careers. But match-wise, there was not a single match I would point to all year as being the best match of the year. I liked Rhea and Nia Jax from Elimination Chamber. I thought they had a really good match on that show. And Nia also had some really good matches earlier in the year with Becky Lynch. but I don't know if I would put them on the list of like best matches this year. You know, like you were right. We had two very good champions this year. They had two great years. They were not out there having great matches all year, which is kind of the problem.
That's not Nia either. Like, that's not Nia's style. Like, she's never been great in the ring. I think she's improved compared to what she was, but I mean, she's never going to be like that's not what she does, but I think compared to what she was doing before, I mean, she had a great career renaissance. I mean, we really enjoyed what she did this year.
Yeah.
Still not great in the ring, but I think from what she was doing when she was younger and before she got released, I mean, I think she had a great year. She's just not overall a great wrestler.
No, and I think the opponent makes a big difference. Like, if she's in there with Becky, then they can have great matches. Bayley, they had decent matches. Nothing I would really write home about, but they had some decent matches. So, hopefully we can get some better matches with the women in WWE specifically in the new year. The stories are, overall very good, but, I want to see more matches like Tiffany and Charlotte in the new year. I want to see Becky and maybe Rhea run it back again. The sooner they get the belts off of Liv and Nia, Leah, not Lyra, Liv Morgan and Nia Jax, I feel like would be better for those divisions.